You want to see another deep pass? All right, take a look at this. Yet again. No, it's not the same play. It's a similar play, but not the same play, and puts it right where only the receiver could get it. Even if the receiver doesn't come down with this, the defensive back has no play on the ball whatsoever. And next up, this is one of his most underrated passes. You want to see a beauty of a pass. Boom. Just look at the zip. Here's another angle of it. Boom. In between two defenders. Perfect. Nico Iamaleava. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is a young man who I've been covering on the channel now for nearly 2 years. Most of y'all know this. I don't hype up a ton of high school recruits because they're not playing the greatest of great competition. But I've been hyping up this guy for a very long time because it's relatively simple. I think he's that good and I think he's going to be special. And to give you some context, I stated this on the channel well over a year ago. He was my #1 quarterback in the class of 2022. Which means, yes, I had him ranked higher on my personal list than Arch Manning and Malachi Nelson. He was my #1 quarterback, and I also stated that I thought he was currently better than Joe Milton, and he should have been starting over Joe Milton. As we all know, that didn't happen this year, which I can't fault Josh Heupel too much because it was a true freshman and Joe Milton, he was a veteran. But guess what? Here we are, it's the bowl game, and your boy Joe Milton, he has opted out of the bowl game, which now means it's Nico Iamaleava's team. A lot of people don't know a lot about Iamaleava, which is completely fine, and that's the reason we're making this video. I'm going to break down his game to y'all and show y'all some must-see, and I'm talking about some must-see film. He's unreal, and it is not normal for a young man to already be this polished this early on in his career. If you've been watching the channel for a while, I love me some Nico Iamaleava. We're going to talk all about that, but also in today's video, we got to talk about what's going on with Alabama. The Alabama topics are somewhat minor, but I thought it was interesting because Alabama is currently going after one of the best cornerbacks in all the transfer portal in Damani Jackson from USC. Why am I bringing this up? Because currently Damani Jackson is at Alabama's practice in California. And we also got to take a look at this. This is trending all over Twitter as when I'm speaking. Nick Saban isn't allowing Alabama players to watch film on their own iPads because he thinks Michigan may have hacked into the film apps. That's, yeah, interesting, to say the least. I wouldn't say we got a jam-packed video for your Thursday night, but we got some interesting things to talk about. But all right, blah, blah, shut the crap out, now without further ado, let's get into it. All right, first things first, we got to talk about this. Nick Saban just pulled off arguably one of the greatest recruiting tactics you could have ever done. To give you some context on the situation, 5-star cornerback, like I said in the intro, Damani Jackson from USC, he entered the transfer portal. And it was being reported that one of his top schools was Alabama. Well, since Damani Jackson is currently in California and Alabama is practicing in California, Nick Saban said, hey, you know what? You want to come to one of our practices? And he did. This is great because I think Damani Jackson, he's going to see how Alabama practices and he's going to fall in love with the process, as Nick Saban says, and he'll probably wind up going to Alabama. As where it stands right now, I've talked to a couple different sources that are keeping up with Damani Jackson's recruitment very closely, and they think he's going to wind up going to Alabama, and so do I. Anytime you can get a 5-star recruit, whether it's out of the portal or out of high school, that's a big-time pickup. Did want to shed some light on that because you don't see that every day where you got a guy in the portal showing up to a playoff practice. Also involving Alabama, before we get into the Nico Iamaleava stuff, check on this. A lot of people are gassing this up and overhyping it. I'm not going to do any of that, but I did want to share the information. I'll just read it off to you word for word right here. Nick Saban is not allowing Alabama players to watch film on their own iPads because Michigan may have hacked into film apps. Just to clarify, no, this is not a false report or rumor. This is 100% true. The Alabama players have even been talking about it during media days. And I'm going to leave it up to you guys. What do y'all think about this in the comment section? Do you think Nick Saban and the Alabama coaching staff, they're overreacting, or is this a smart approach? If you want my 2 cents on it, here's how I view it, and it's really the simplest answer out there. I just think Nick Saban, he's trying to be careful. That's all there is to it. I don't think anybody should even say, oh, well, Nick Saban and the Alabama coaching staff, they're overreacting, when no. They're not, because Michigan got caught cheating already this year. I could sit up here and talk about that all day long, but we are going to move on to the main topic, the main encore, the main reason you clicked onto this video. What is going on with Tennessee and their new quarterback? For those of you that haven't heard the news, Joe Milton, Tennessee's starting quarterback this year, he will not be playing in the bowl game against Iowa, which means, by default, Nico Iamaleava is the next man up. And like I've stated and like I harped on in the intro, I love me some Iamaleava. This dude can play, and all you need to know to give you some context is I ranked him ahead of Malachi Nelson and Arch Manning. That's all you need to know, at least how I view him. I'm going to get into his film in just a second, but here's what stands out to me the most in him. Number 1, he is extremely smart. Number 2, he's extremely athletic. Number 3, he can read and process defenses just as good as any quarterback out there. And number 4, I got to throw this in there, he's 6'6", and number 5, the zip and velocity he puts on all of his passes It's unreal. He has an uncanny ability to play the quarterback position. There's not too many guys that can do what he does, and that's the main reason he was regarded as a 5-star recruit. As they say, though, talk is cheap, and if you don't want to take my word for it, well, take a look at his film for yourself. I'm not going to sit up here and break down all of his film because that's a different video for a different day. Maybe we do that in the offseason. Let me know in the comment section if you want to see that, but I'll break down a few plays for y'all, or we'll take a look at about we'll say 6, 7, 8 plays. This first play I'm going to show you, you're not going to think too much about it. It's just a simple out route, but the one thing you got to pay attention to the most with Nico Iamaleava, and it's why I've graded him as the #1 quarterback in his class, he hits his receivers, all of them, in stride. Most quarterbacks don't do that, even at the collegiate level. I think Tua in the NFL, he's a game manager, but what made Tua Tagovailoa so elite at Alabama? He hit those first-round wide receivers in stride. That's what made him so good. Nico Iamaleava has a similar characteristic trait, and when I look for and when I evaluate quarterbacks, that's the one thing I always look for. Do you hit receivers in stride? A lot of people don't look for that, but to me, that is a huge deal because if you don't hit them in stride, that just messes up everything, and it could take away from a 15, 20-yard gain and only turn it into about 7 or 8. So yet again, going back to this play, you may think it's a simple out route, but by hitting that receiver in stride, the receiver got to cut it upfield and gain 10 to 15 more yards. I know what some of the naysayers may be saying, though, Matt. It's one pass. It was a 15-yard medium pass. Let's see the deep ball, and take a look at this. You want to see the deep ball? All right, I got the deep ball. And you'll notice right here, he drops it in the bucket. He put it, yet again, to where his receiver was running. The receiver caught it in stride, and I can't emphasize and harp on that enough. That's what quarterbacks need to do. You want to see another deep pass? All right, take a look at this. Yet again, no, it's not the same play. It's a similar play, but not the same play, and puts it right where only the receiver could get it. Even if the receiver doesn't come down with this, the defensive back has no play on the ball whatsoever. And next up, this is one of his most underrated passes. You want to see a beauty of a pass. Boom. Just look at the zip. Here's another angle of it. Boom. In between two defenders. Perfect. And I'm going to continue to go back to this, and whenever I talk about him, I'm going to bring it up. I want you to notice the velocity he puts on all of his passes. He throws rockets, but here's the thing. So did Joe Milton. But the difference is Nico Iamaleava is way more accurate. That's all of his plays that I'm specifically going to narrow down and break down. I think you get the point. I'll run some of his other highlights in the background so you can continue to watch the masterclass he put on in high school. What I want you to pay attention to, though, the most in these highlights you continue to see is his decision making and how accurate every single pass is. You're rarely, if ever, going to see Nico Iamaleava throw a ball behind a receiver. Now, that's not to say against Iowa he won't do that, and I'm sure in the future, next year when he's a starting quarterback, which I expect him to be, he may have a bad game or two, but you got to remember, it's going to take him at least a few games to get ready for the next level, which is college. It's a different ball game going from high school to college, even though he is a 5-star recruit. I do want to throw that in there. Just because I'm hyping him up and just because I'm in love with his game and everything about it, I don't want you to automatically assume if you're a Tennessee fan, this guy's going to throw for 40 touchdowns next year and 4 interceptions. That's probably not going to happen. More than likely next year, he'll probably throw for something around 30 touchdowns, 25, something like that, and possibly 8 interceptions. I think that's realistic, but for his first season as a starter, that ain't bad at all. That's good. Now, as far as it goes for what's he going to do against Iowa, well, I'm extremely invested in him, and I can't wait to see what happens. As we all know, Iowa has one of the worst offenses in the country. However, their defense isn't that bad. They're pretty decent. That's what I'm going to give them. I'm not going to label their defense as good because I don't believe they're good. They're decent. But here's what I will tell you, or I'm going to show you. They held Michigan outside that punt return touchdown to 19 points, Nebraska to 10, Illinois to 13, Rutgers 0, and Northwestern 7. What does that mean? Well, nothing necessarily, but just do what you want with that information. What you're looking at right here, their defense only allowing less than 20 points in their last 5 games outside the punt return to Michigan, I take it with a grain of salt because those offenses aren't that good. Michigan's offense is pretty good, but that game was never in doubt. The rest of them, not really. I think Tennessee has a really good offense, so I'm excited to see that Josh Heupel offense against the Iowa defense. I just wanted to make this video and put it out there right now because I love Nico Iamaleava, and I'm excited he's getting the opportunity to play in this game. And oh yeah, let me make this clear before we end out this video. I am not a Tennessee fan. This is as unbiased as it gets. And matter of fact, Tennessee is one of the biggest rivals that my team, Alabama, plays every single year. Like I tell people though, before I'm an Alabama fan, and whether you want to believe this or not, it's completely up to you. Number one, I'm a college football fan, and I have to evaluate things and analyze things how they are. Do what you want with this information. If you are a college football fan, you don't want to miss Nico Iamaleava play against Iowa. I'm telling you right now. Let me know your thoughts on all this down below. But Romany!